How we doing, everyone? And welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. With me tonight, my guy, San Antonio, Texas, Mr. Mike Zappy.
What's going on, bud? We're almost time for Thanksgiving. That's all I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah, almost time for Thanksgiving. And while we do have plenty to be thankful for, I don't think either of us are going to be choosing our 2024 seasons. The New York Giants travel to Arlington to take on the Cowboys in a game that may be in some metrics based on draft positioning, but you guys looked good last week where we didn't. And we're going to definitely hit on the trifecta of Turkey Day games. We've got a Black Friday game going down, Las Vegas Raiders, Kansas City Chiefs, reigniting a very old rivalry, two teams in two completely different places. But the Raiders have had a propensity for playing them tough the last couple of years. We're going to hit on Saquon Barkley. We're going to talk about why the streak of quarterbacks winning league MVPs may be coming to an end. And the Dodgers add another arm as the rich continue to get richer. Yeah, man. Lots to speak on. And we are going to start this up. Turkey Day. The Detroit Lions will be hosting the Chicago Bears. Look at that. Look at that bear. Looks like one of those Cub Scout bears.
That's about as good as the Bears are going to look right there.
Yeah, I must admit, Zap, you are correct. I do not feel all that great about the Bears' prospects going into Detroit. David Montgomery could potentially miss this game. We're going to know more as the Wednesday report comes out. But yeah, with or without Montgomery, Gibbs gets the bulk of the workload. Caleb Williams, I think he's going to be under duress for a good chunk of this game. I just don't like their chances here at all. I know that the Lions have had a horrible habit, even when they're good, of not playing well on this day, on Thanksgiving Day. Even going back to last year, they were a game away from the Super Bowl. They got beat by Green Bay in Detroit on Turkey Day. But not this time and not this week. Detroit, when I look at what they've done, I think they're the best team in the league. I think they're the best team in the NFL. And while I think we could both agree that the AFC is a stronger conference to the NFC, I think Detroit is the class of the league.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit, the way they're doing it too, it's 1 week it's the run game with Sonic and Tails of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and the next week it's the pass game of Jared Goff and his receiving core. And then another week, it's Goff throwing for 5 interceptions in Houston, and they still figure out a way to win. And when I look at the Bears, they had that emotional roller coaster of a fourth quarter against the Commanders weeks ago that has followed up with a losing streak that we thought was going to be snapped this past weekend against the Vikings, and then they dropped another heartbreaker in overtime to the Vikings. So it's a tale of two seasons right now. One is going great, and the other one is just Bears fans are saying it again. Why us?
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time, all too often. And, everybody gets a bye week or a bye season in terms of, young draftees. But in a couple of years, mainly even year two, this time next year, if Caleb Williams is still significantly behind Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, possibly Drake May, we're going to be revisiting this draft and talking to more and more about how the Chicago Bears, yet again, failed to get a franchise quarterback. I'm Caleb has shown signs of improvement, but he has been a tough guy to figure this year. And going back to USC, you and I were very strong-minded about how we felt that this was not the guy that was going to be a leader of men.
Mm-mm. And I said, I'm going to correct myself real quick. I said Sonic and Tails, but I meant Sonic and Knuckles in reference to Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. But as far as
Yeah,
Caleb
yeah, that
Williams
did kind of
goes,
throw me. I was like, who the hell is Tails?
yeah,
Those are
as
big boys.
as far as Caleb Williams goes, I mean, yeah, I've never been high on him. I'm not high on Lincoln Riley quarterbacks. I lost a lot of respect for him last year in that college game where he ran up into the stands and was held into his mother's arms, and it's just sometimes some guys don't have it. And when I see that he's hasn't defeated a quarterback yet from his rookie class, it's there's a list of things. And when I see guys like Bo Nix, who is having a wonderful season with the Broncos, and I mean they're currently in the 7th seed. And then when I see Jaden Daniels in the season he's having with the Commanders, and even Drake May is having himself a good year. I mean, I think J.J. McCarthy was well on his way to having what probably would have been a good rookie season if it wasn't for an unfortunate meniscus tear. But Caleb, when your team goes out and surrounds you with all this talent with the expectation to draft you number one, and you're not showing up to those expectations, it's pretty sad.
I'm just truly miffed on how that front office thought that he was a superior quarterback or a better quarterback for that organization than Jaden Daniels. It truly miffs me. That one might go down for years to come. But a lot of time left. You know, I actually thought Caleb played one of his better games 2 weeks ago against Green Bay at home, but short lived. And Chicago's a big city too. They don't necessarily always get the headlines of a New York or a Dallas or some of the powerhouses on the West Coast in different sports or in Boston. But you know, the Bluebirds will be arriving, and the pressure will start mounting if Caleb doesn't take a big step. This last quarter of the year, and obviously into year two. And you're talking about a division that every quarterback is established already. Jordan Love, first year starter last year, really did a hell of a job replacing a legend at Aaron Rodgers. Jared Goff, career renaissance going to Detroit. And, Sam Darnold. And to your point, J.J. McCarthy, who unfortunately didn't take a snap this year. Uh, Sam Darnold might be one and done, but going to get a good contract somewhere. And J.J. McCarthy is the future of that organization. So a lot of pressure on Caleb.
Yeah, and when I think about the division of quarterbacks, and I think of Caleb Williams, I think what would have benefited the Bears more, and we might be revisiting this in 3 years, but if they would have taken the Jordan Love approach, let him sit for a year or two to really learn the game of the NFL, go out there and why not bring in a Sam Darnold and let him learn under him, or if not, just let him learn under Justin Fields.
I mean, even the great Patrick Mahomes sat for a year up until
week
I
17.
believe the final game of the year that season. Alex Smith's last game as a member of the Chiefs, if my memory serves me right, was a 13-10 loss to my Giants in a very forgetful season.
It was, well, yeah, you're right, because that week 17 was where Mahomes arrived against the Broncos, and they're like, oh my God, did they get someone in quarterback? And the following year, they're in the AFC Championship game.
And the reason why it's so memorable and a meaningless game, but there are some good undertones, is that it was the end of the Ben McAdoo, Jerry Reese era. Listen, going off track for a second, but my game's next, your game's next, so I can kind of build it up a little. Jerry Reese did a lot of good things in 07. He had trouble replenishing an offensive line. He spent more money on 5 defenders than most countries spend on wars. It was one and done for the Giants. There was a boat trip involved. We all know the story. He's replaced by Dave Gettleman. Gettleman promised us hog mollies. he did produce one. He got us Andrew Thomas. Of course, Saquon Barkley, drafting a running back that early, it will always be debated. He's having a phenomenal season, his best as a pro, his best since his rookie campaign of 18. Uh, Yet again, not replenishing the line properly. Now, fast forward to the current times, Joe Shane has struck out on 3 prospects, guys from the draft, goes out and gets some veterans, and those could have been monies allocated towards 2 Pro Bowlers this year. Uh, a guy like Xavier McKinney, who's having his best year as a pro, and same goes for Barkley. Before we move it over all the way to Cowboys and Giants, because I'm sure there's going to be a couple of things that you want to speak on regarding your team. My final, I got the Lions winning, and I got them winning big. I'm going Lions 38, Bears 20.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be much of a game. I think it'll. This Lions team is just too explosive. They're riding an ultimate high right now, and it's going to continue going into next week. Yeah, I'm looking at a very similar score. I think the Lions may be putting up another 40-point game. I'm going to go with the Lions 41, Chicago 17. And just to give you a little correction there, Rich, the Lions will be 11-1 after this week, not 11.
How did I put a 2 down? What is that about? Thanks for spotting that, Zap.
But yeah, it's this team. They were well underway. I think they're the favorites in the NFC by a long shot. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. I think they just match up a lot better with Green Bay this year than they did last year. A whole lot better. So they are 11-1, correct, sir? Or are they 10-1?
They're 10-1 currently.
I'm just leaving it there because they're going to be 11-1 at day's end.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, moving it along. Next up is the Dallas Cowboys hosting the New York Giants. Coming into the year, I believe that this was a game that was probably offering a lot more excitement, aesthetically than it is now, obviously. Man, the Giants having the kind of crummy year that they're having, I get it because of the turnover. You lose your best offensive player in Saquon Barkley. You lose your all-pro tackle in Andrew Thomas. Saquon Barkley, Andrew Thomas. You lose them both. And injuries, yet again. Offensive line going through it on the injury front. And it's more than that. The coaching has been very suspect. You and I have discussed this off air. You believe Brian Dable gets another go. Joe Shane should get the heave ho. I kind of have mixed feelings on the whole matter. Mainly because I actually think that Joe Shane did a decent job drafting this year, and the offensive line was showing a decent amount of promise prior to the injuries to Thomas and most recently Illuminor. But this is bigger than that. I mean, the way they handled the Daniel Jones situation, and when it comes in the same season where Saquon Barkley's having the kind of year that he's having, it's embarrassing on a lot of levels. Um, you know, it, it, they just took him, and I understand that Saquon may have very well decided that he probably was going to move on from the Giants regardless. But when you have it on the internet, go to Max, you can see Hard Knocks, the infamous statement of the $40 million quarterback handing off to the 12 million running back. It's just not a good look on so many levels, and the timing couldn't be worse. And right now the Giants are in shambles. Tommy DeVito, he's got his little cult following, but a very horrible performance at home against Tampa. Guys quitting on the field, uh, making business decisions. And the New York Giants are in a bad place right now. And I don't see it getting better anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, just all you have to do is just go look at the interview post game with Malik Neighbors, and he mentions, DJ's not here, Tommy Cutlets is here. Obviously, it's not the quarterback. Yeah, it's a bigger issue going on there in New York. But again, I don't put a lot of this on Dable. Of course, some of the play calling, yes, but I do put it that I think Joe Shane set that team up for failure, specifically Brian Dable. Um, I just don't like him as a GM, to be honest with you. And I've been high on Dable. I've been high on him before. And I know there's a lot of New York Giants fans that want him gone, there's that don't. And I've always said if you gave him the right quarterback for his system, he would succeed. And I was never high on DJ for one. Letting Saquon go, maybe that was the right, maybe it wasn't. That, we can't make that decision quite yet. Got to wait 2 more years probably. But this team goes a lot further than just Saquon and Daniel Jones. Like you hit on it, your offensive line going through injuries, your defense going through injuries, missing on some draft picks and hitting on others. Like, there's just a lot of things that need to be corrected, and it's not going to be corrected overnight. And I think this is you guys are going through the ultimate rebuild right now. And when you look at what's happening this week, going into Dallas, which I thought this was going to be the game that was going to be a very prime candidate for a top 5 positioning, but Dallas is showing last Sunday in Washington, it all I saw was a team that actually has not quit and that is going to continue to play for Mike McCarthy. And when I say that, I mean, you look at the fact that we are missing so many starters, not just starters, we're missing all pro caliber players. And we're playing with what Jerry Jones gave us, and the fact that they were able to go into Washington and deliver a much needed win after a 5-game losing streak was big. And then you welcome in a New York team that is hurting more than you. It's kind of like, all right, well, things are kind of pointing up for Dallas, because if you look at their schedule, the brutal part of it is over. And it's almost as like the game this past week is a game that can really turn their season around. I'm not going to sit here and say they're a playoff team. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to turn it around, sneak into the playoffs, and go into Philly week in the wild card and shock the world or anything by that matter. But this is a team that can definitely carry the momentum forward for 2025 if they keep playing hard. And the only thing I don't like is hearing Jerry Jones today's remarks saying that it's a possibility Mike McCarthy gets an extension. And that's the part that makes me upset. But I know it's Mike McCarthy, or it's Jerry Jones trolling and doing what he can in the media, because we all know he loves to be talked about.
Yeah, on my Monday rundown, I did make mention how I felt that McCarthy should get replaced, but it still says something about the character of a team that, knocks off a team that is basically going into that still within reach of catching the Eagles if the Eagles should run into some trouble. And we've been on the Commanders in the sense that, you were a year off, but you are on it now with them winning the division, or being a division hopeful. They're not going to win the division. It's going to be Philly. They could be a playoff team. However, they could also fall out of it because, similar to the Chargers, who have had a nice turnaround, both those teams have struggled against teams with winning records. And, they inherited a 4th place schedule. But this isn't the 22 Giants. I think they're in a better place than those guys were. And Jaden Daniels has a bright future in front of him. It's good to see Terry McLaurin, having something to finally play for. That guy has been the consummate professional, even through all the terrible times under Dan Snyder. Your team, to your point, has momentum to build going into 2025, and they have a legitimate chance to kind of change the narrative a little. But the fact that they haven't quit, I think, says a lot about the characters in that locker room, even the guys that are missing. You know, and these are two teams going in two different directions. One team has already quit in my eyes, that being my team. Your team is still trying to compete. I like the Cowboys by 13 here. I like the Cowboys by 13. I'm going 26-13, Dallas Cowboys. And Tommy DeVito's a little dinged up. So there is a possibility that we could see Drew Lock after all. Drew Lock was very upset a few weeks back, saying that when I came in here, I was told I was going to be the backup. And then when Tommy DeVito started, Drew, you still are.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what you said earlier of how things have been handled with that organization, I think that's the biggest mishandling of everything is you bring in a guy like Drew Lock, a guy that is looking for that opportunity one more time to get a start in the NFL to show that, hey, he could still play at a high level in this league. And then you come to New York knowing that, all right, well, they have issues with Daniel Jones, just maybe I'm an injury away from starting again. Or maybe it's a benching away. And then you get passed up for Tommy DeVito, who obviously came in last year, played 2 great games, and ultimately was the reason why the Giants fell out of position to get D1 Jaden Daniels. But I don't like the way that was handled. And if I was Drew Lock, I would have expressed my emotions a lot more than he did. But he is a professional. He did it the right way. So I can't disagree with him on that. As for the game goes, yeah, I actually have the same score for the Giants, putting up 13, but I'm gonna say Dallas has 23. I think it's going to be a good defensive battle type game. I think the tight end, Luke Schoonmaker, is going to be the difference for the game. He's actually stepped up big in Jake Ferguson's absence the last couple of weeks, and it looks like Ferguson's on his way to missing his second game in a row coming off that concussion from 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I think Dallas will continue to build off of this past Sunday's game, come out victorious, improve their season, and keep going from here, and we'll see where the season takes them. But yeah, I think 23-13, Dallas on top at home, and they finally get their first home win of the season.
Yeah, long overdue. Giants have yet to achieve that, and I don't think they will this year. Last thing I want to say on the Giants, as a fan and as someone who has followed this team since 1990, it's troubling to think what outsiders think about this. Talking about players that are going to come into the league, players that are going to go into free agency. Listen, I long supported Daniel Jones. I was proven wrong about his potential, and whatever potential he did have, I honestly think was broken over too many beatings. It kind of reminds me to a level of David Carr. But having said that, the way he was treated on the way out when he's been nothing but a pro, if I'm a father of, say, a Shador Sanders, I don't know if I want my kid playing for this organization. They're dysfunctional. If I'm a veteran looking for one last grasp of a starting job, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, even, I don't know if I want to go there. I mean, it might be an extra motivation because they're across the hallway and you might want to stick it to the Jets. But I think you get where I'm going.
Yeah, it's got to be someone. I think that guy is in Minnesota, to be honest with you. I think Sam Darnold coming into New York makes a lot of sense.
That
But
would be a nice little reclamation deal, considering that he didn't really have the fairest shot as the quarterback of the Jets with Adam Gase. That would be interesting.
it would be. As the season goes for New York, all you can hope for is that the young guys show out and over the next 6 weeks play their hearts out and can finish up strong for the team.
And while I want to believe all those things, after what I saw with a good Tampa team, but not a great Tampa team, um, basically just kicking our teeth in. And like I said, business decisions. Shane Bowen, by the way, I think he's got to go too. Um, Never have I ever seen a team that just a couple weeks ago led the NFL in sacks with this kind of record. I really have to dig and see this lack of success with a team that was in the top of the sacks like the G-men have been. But it's not just sacking the quarterback. Schematically, they are not a good unit, and they make a lot of mistakes. On to Green Bay. We've got Tua Tagovailoa leading a desperate Dolphins team. He's playing good ball right now. 3-game winning streak for the Packers. They're looking to catch Minnesota and ultimately try to catch Detroit. But I think best case scenario for the Packers is second place and going into the playoffs for a second consecutive year as a strong wild card. I've said this often about Mike McDaniel's teams. A commitment to running the ball opens so much up for everything else that they are capable of doing because they do have an enormous amount of speed. Jalen Waddle right now, the way he's been playing, and Jonnu Smith, kind of taking a lot of balls away from Tyreek Hill. And, Devin Achan has definitely distanced himself in one short year from his running back mate, who was tied for the most touchdowns in the NFL last year amongst running backs, Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert, with the injuries and father time kind of smacking him around, just not the same player. But this is going to be a fun game to watch. And I think this is a game where you might actually see a lot of points go up on the board. I see Miami competing into the third quarter, but I think you're going to see a couple of Tua mistakes. And I think you're going to see Green Bay just impose their will. And let's not forget, Miami does not play good in the cold. But I do think Miami will compete. I got the Packers winning this thing 37-27. I think the Dolphins are going to be able to score some points. But midway through the third, towards the conclusion of this game, I think Green Bay pitches a shutout for the final 20 minutes of the game, and that will be the difference.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. Well, reason why I say interesting is because, like you said, the Dolphins, they're riding a high 3-game winning streak. They've progressively been getting better since Tua's return. And, Green Bay is coming off of a big win against the 49ers this past week. That be it against Brandon Allen, not Brock Purdy, but it's a story of two seasons, one going positively, the other one going negatively. And when I look at Miami, you asked me the other day, who's a team that would make the 7th seed? Broncos, but if there's a team that can slowly sneak into playoff positioning, it is this Dolphins team. And if they can come out on top and win this game, I think that puts them in prime position to make a run at the playoffs. And I don't think it's going to be that big of a lead. I think this is going to be a much tougher game than Green Bay is expecting. I think Jordan Love's going to be the one that makes the critical mistakes in this game. I don't know why I see it. I think it has to do with the fact that the Packers and Jordan Love play much better on the road than they do at home. But
that's a solid one.
But the big issue is the weather. Tua Miami, they don't do good in cold weather games.
No.
And they haven't shown us anything otherwise. And, that might have been the only reason why they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs. I'm sure if it was in Miami, they could have possibly won that game. But something's got to give in this one. I think it's going to be a lot closer, and I think it's going to be a little lower scoring. I'm going to take Green Bay to win this one, but I'm going to take them to win it by 4, 27-23. I think Tua's going to have a good game. I think Jordan Love will make that mistake. But I think ultimately they're going to be able to lean on the run game of Josh Jacobs to put the game away and come out victorious in this one.
You know what's interesting? You made mention of Green Bay in the Love era. Some of their more poignant moments coming on the road. Some of it is circumstantial because, after all, they did get beat by two quality teams at home in the form of the Vikings and the Lions. But taking it back to even the Rodgers era, and Brett, if he was here, would probably co-sign what I'm saying. And, Brett has said for quite some time that the Packers were a little too much finesse considering the region they play in. And you revisit a 49er team a couple of years ago that really just mashed the Packers and kept competing until they finally made a couple of plays. on special teams to win a game in what was kind of like an ice rink. And, Brady beats them in Lambeau. A little different scenario, no fans or minimal fans. But the point to be made is even going back to the Rodgers era, they were 15-1. New York Giants punched them in the mouth, ruined their chance of going back to back. Previous year, the Packers became only the second team, if I'm not mistaken, the second team in NFL history to run the table on the road and take it home.
I want to say they were the second team because you guys did it in 07.
Yeah, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Green Bay was the second because the Raiders did win a Super Bowl as a wild card, but in that era, you had home games being a wild card
Yeah,
because there were less divisions. So don't quote me on that. I will fact check it, but I do believe Green Bay became the second team to do that, ultimately beating Mike Tomlin's Pittsburgh Steelers, the one Super Bowl Ben Roethlisberger lost. That was actually quite an entertaining one. But yeah, I got it a little higher. You got it in the 20s, but we both see Green Bay moving along, and they will be they will have their eyes. They will have their eyes on the Viking game, and they'll already know what the Lions did by the time they get on the field.
absolutely.
So yeah, that NFC North really, about a month ago we said this division could potentially send all four to the playoffs. The Bears have significantly fallen out of that. Last game before we hit on a couple of topics, we've got the Raiders and we've got the Chiefs. Old school AFL rivalry, but unfortunately, one of my favorite linebackers for the New York Giants probably going to get fired. No fault of his own. I think he inherited a very difficult situation. With Tom Brady up top, I know he's a minority stakes guy, and with the potential of a Shador Sanders coming in, the Raiders are going to be going for somewhat of a facelift. So AP will be a victim of that. I still think that he's going to have another crack at coaching. Maybe not immediately as a head coach, but I think he'll get one more shot down the road. I'm rooting for him. As the game goes, the Chiefs have not been incredibly impressive, but they are 10-1. And last year they had a much worse record and won a second consecutive Super Bowl. I know for quite some time you yourself said that you really felt the three-peat was coming. Off air, you kind of softened your stance on that or your opinion on that. I honestly, I've been saying this for a minute. It seems like every show I say it once. If this team was not the Chiefs and they didn't have the Super Bowl resume with the current head coach and quarterback combo, I don't necessarily think we'd be praising or they'd be getting praised the way they do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of the praise comes with maybe not even the Super Bowl team, but I think it's just like Patrick Mahomes, for example. He's still, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league. But
he's definitely the best quarterback in money time, I'll tell you that.
yeah, and definitely in money time. But if you say who is the best quarterback of the 2024 season, it's not Patrick Mahomes. In no way, shape, or form is it Patrick Mahomes. But because he is a three-time winning, back-to-back winning, three-time MVP, Super Bowl MVP quarterback, I mean, this guy is going to – all the mistakes will be kind of ignored. This Chiefs team, yeah, like you said, they're a good team. They're 10-1 right now. They obviously went into Buffalo and got the brakes beaten off of them, and then they were supposed to blow out Carolina, and they barely came out of that one on top. This Chiefs team right now is still, I think, trying to find themselves. Like last year, they were going through that struggle mid-season, and I think they're going through it right now. But the only difference is they're still winning this year. I'm not gonna I keep thinking to myself, are the Chiefs gonna get three-peat? I still think they have that three-peat in them because ultimately I do think they have the best coaching in the NFL, and they have Patrick Mahomes, and they have that great defense. But this team right now, they might be sneaking by, but at the end of the day, if you have that W next to the score, that's all that matters. And when you're welcoming in a Las Vegas Raiders team that, I mean, let's be real, they're hurting on so many levels. Um, you lose Gardner Minshew for the year. You're going back to Aiden O'Connell, and I hate to do this to you again, but they're 2-9 this year, not 3-8.
Damn it, Richie.
But this Raiders
You
team,
mean to tell me the last game this team won was against the Ravens?
yeah, it's been a while. That's how bad they're doing right now. So they're going back to Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. Devontae Adams away mid-season. They said goodbye to Josh Jacobs before the season started. Antonio Pierce has not been given the much luxury of a roster, and I mean they're going through an ultimate rebuild.
The
And
Devontae Adams thing, I think, is what really killed the vibe there. I was actually quite shocked that Max Crosby didn't get dealt.
yeah, I was shocked, but I also wasn't, because to me, Max Crosby is a guy that you build your defense around. Where Devontae Adams, he's a 31-year-old wide receiver, 32-year-old, whatever he is. He's at the tail end of his career. Where Max still has a good 5 to 8 years of great football play left in him. So I can understand why you don't trade him away, where you do trade Devontae away. Max Crosby has been more of a professional, still a locker room leader, where Devontae has been that drama queen on the sideline, sitting in the tunnel, hand on his head. We saw the show Receiver. We saw on Netflix how he was acting. So, just like the normal wide receiver prima
I
donna.
mean, dude, even going back to a couple of years ago with this rivalry, post game running over that kid with the camera, that was a dick move.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
He chased Derek Carr to go over there. They were living together. They were rooming together. But man, what a terrible decision. Now he reunites with his old quarterback, and it's like the Twilight Zone over there for gangrene.
yeah, really. I think it goes to prove that they have the wrong guy still calling plays.
I
They,
tend to agree, my friend. I
they
tend
fired the
to
wrong
agree.
guy.
As
But
the
with this
game goes, the Chiefs have not been overly impressive in terms of the scores. But I think this is the week where they get a nice distance on one. Give me the Chiefs 34. Give me the Raiders 10.
yeah, I'm pretty similar to you. I have the Chiefs 27, the Raiders 10. This is the kind of game that after a 30-27 victory against the Panthers, I think they need a feel good game. I think this is the week they get it, because after this week, I mean, they have the Chargers next week on Sunday Night Football. So that's going to be a much bigger game.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more on that. We're going to move it along to Saquon Barkley. Yeah. Short, sweet, simple. I don't want to talk about how he got there and why he's there and all this other shit. All I'm going to say is this. It's been a long time since a running back has won league MVP. I think it goes without saying this young man is going to win Offensive Player of the Year. I think he goes for the twofer. I think he deserves to win the MVP if he continues this production. And Eric Dickerson's rushing season single record could be falling down. He has been the bell cow on so many metrics, and it's interesting because for so many years, Philly did running back by committee. We had wide receivers coach as a guest on the show here, Mr. Aaron Moorhead, talking about the value of having that committee backfield. That was a couple of seasons ago. Now you're talking about Saquon Barkley being a bell cow and truly getting, a lot of work, a lot of usage. I know going in, a fear of mine for Saquon was, will he get hurt again? But he has been a true gladiator this year. And as the old saying goes, hate the player, don't, hate the game, don't hate the player. I don't hate Saquon Barkley. He's a phenomenal generational talent. And while it could be, debated on if it was the right time to let him go because we're not close to winning anything, I think Saquon made that decision. And he made a good one. He got paid handsomely. And let's be real, Philadelphia Eagles are a much better organization than the New York Giants right now, as much as it kills me to say that.
You know what's crazy is when I think of this season, all right, say Eric Dickerson rushed for 2,104 yards, I believe it was.
Uh-huh.
Saquon is on pace to rush for 2,151 rushing yards.
Not to mention what he's doing in the receiving game.
Yes.
It's freaking, dude, 300 yards? That's Al Bundy territory.
Almost. You can don't put anyone in the Al Bundy category. No, I don't care who it is. He scored 4 touchdowns in a single game. Okay,
but he was not able to beat the Little Giants.
Well, because he was coaching. If he was playing, I think he runs the score.
Yeah, absolutely. And he would have kicked that little mucus kid, like just punted his ass right through the goalpost. Okay, enough of that.
Icebox would have felt the pain.
Let me tell you, Icebox could teach some techniques to our linebacking corps. Continue, Mr. Zappy.
But I would want to say this. All right, I'm going to say this. A couple weeks ago, Saquon Barkley had the opportunity to break his single game rushing record against you, and he was on the sidelines on camera for saying, "Let the young guys eat."
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be. I want to say he's not going to do it, but I think he's going to do it. The reason why, Week 18.
Yes, sir.
Philly.
Yes, sir.
Against your New York Giants.
And I'll tell you what, I've not always been the biggest supporter of Rex Ryan, but everything that man said was 125% true about the state of our organization and the front office quitting a little bit before the players did. And, Rex, you either like him or you don't. There's not really much of an in-between. I had a high admiration for his late father, Buddy. And I almost think that Rex is like trying to kind of get back in the fold of coaching again because, he made a funny statement not too long ago about his desire to come back to the Jets. And, to his credit, they have not done anything since he left.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the last of Rex. I think he's going to have one more rodeo in the coaching, and whether it's as defensive coordinator and eventually getting that head coach position again, or someone like a Panthers team that takes a chance on a Rex Ryan. I don't think we've seen the last of him yet.
I'm kind of rooting for him because although it was, the other team in New York, and, we had that epic Christmas Eve battle, and he and Brandon Jacobs got into that epic shouting match at post game. I do respect Rex. I will say that. And, a coach like that is needed for certain programs in the league. And I think the guys wearing the green and the guys wearing the blue both qualify under that. Before we get out of here, Zap, Blake Snell, Los Angeles Dodgers, the rich keep getting richer. What are your thoughts?
Where are they getting all this money? I know where they're getting all this money. My thoughts
are from all the bets that Otani's translator hit. Okay, go ahead.
Well, when you have a country like Japan that's going to easily fork over billions of dollars for you to be able to bring in guys like that. Blake Snell going into this lineup with what we saw the additions last year. Obviously, Walker Buehler is a free agent. That's, to me, Blake Snell is a step above. You have Yamamoto who's coming into year 2, who in his first year looked like he's going to be a great pitcher for them. And then not to forget that they went out and got Tyler Glasnow last year. Oh, yeah, and by the way, Shohei Ohtani is going to be pitching for this team.
Not to mention Flaherty, if I'm not mistaken, is still under contract.
No, he's a free agent
He was a free agent, so he's a one-and-doner. And what's the deal with Kershaw?
I think he's done. I mean, he got his ring. The guy was not on the playoff roster. If you look at him, he looks like he is in dad bod mode, retirement ready. I don't think we're gonna see Clayton Kershaw pitch again, but Time will tell.
If he does, I could see a bullpen move. We'll just leave it there for now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That is a very solid point. But when you bring in a Blake Snell into this rotation, this is a great pickup, and I don't even think they're done yet with pitching. I think there's another pitcher they're going to be bringing in. I'm trying to think of his name. The young kid out of Japan,
Oh, Sasaki.
Sasaki. Thank you. If they are able to get Roki Sasaki into that lineup after with the addition of Blake Snell, and then we still don't know what's going to happen with Juan Soto, but I hate to say it, we haven't seen it in a long time. I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. Mookie Betts might be right. This Dodgers team might be the team that cannot be touched for the next 7 years.
It's pretty scary when you think about what they have done. And time will reveal that, because as great as I acknowledge their talent pool is in that organization, one thing I will say, we let them off the hook in game one, and we had the worst inning possibly in the history of the World Series. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a hopefulness reflecting back on it that I do think that we could have very well been up 3-2 as opposed to losing 4-1. But, champions make the plays and bridesmaids don't. And the Yankees were the bridesmaid and the better team won. For Mr. Zappy, I am Richie. We appreciate you guys hanging with us tonight. I'm going to re-air this tomorrow because I've been a little out of my element with having to do these shows through the phone, working on getting my computer fixed. And my apologies for a couple of those blunders on the team records. It's a little weird typing with the phone and doing the show, but we hope you enjoyed it. We had a great time bringing it. For Zappy, I am Richie. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving indeed.
Have a good night, my man.
Yes, sir.